Hello everyone, this is Zoltar and welcome to another Offworld Trading Company campaign. I think we're going to make another attempt at winning as Expansive, but there's going to be one major difference this time. Namely, we're playing on the development build, which means there have been some pretty aggressive changes going into the campaign. And maybe it'll make a difference, maybe it'll change things for the better. That's kind of what we're hoping for. So, that said, I do apologize in advance if there are any technical difficulties that for some reason prevent us from continuing, because not only are we playing an early access game, we are playing a development version of an early access game. Things might go wrong, but we're going to take a shot anyway, because I looked through a fair number of the changes, and I thought there was a step in the right direction, so we could just take a look at what's coming, rather than things that are already significantly changed. So, that said, let's go ahead and get to it. You will notice immediately the sheer number of engineers we have access to, unlike before. I believe, also, you'll notice that we are appropriately starting at $4 stock price. I also believe that we start with maybe a bit more funds and a bit more income to cover the extra expenses from the extra engineers, things of that nature. Another thing to note, by the way, is I believe in the old version of the campaign, having 2 engineers would get you up to 100% production. And I think that's true sometimes in here. It might still be the case. I don't think so, actually. If I remember correctly, these all say that a steel mill consumes 1 iron to produce 0.5 steel. I don't think that's going to actually be the case once we get in there. I think it takes the full 3 engineers, like we have on our solar panel, to have 100% production. So you'll notice even though we have more engineers, and they are spread out a bit better, so the only resource we're really locked out of is chems, not everything is going to be up to maybe the exact production we would expect. So I think what we're going to start with our labor pool is we're going to spend this 600. Also, I still don't know why 800s appear here, but that's fine. We're going to spend our 600 on an electrolysis reactor and a water pump. That should get them all the way up to that full production. You'll notice the values haven't changed, even though we have more engineers. And let's see what we're going to have available for our mission. We can get a free wind turbine, or we can get a water shipment, or we can get a power surge. I'm very tempted by a power surge. That sounds like the most fun. Water shipment could be okay, because as you'll see later, sometimes water might go a little insane. I've pulled that off a couple of times so far in attempting the campaign. But a power surge sounds like the most fun. So I think we're going to head toward that. Let's just get started. Okay.
Low levels of aluminum found.
Once we get founded, I'll try and discuss some of the key differences to look out for compared to the live version, just so people are aware. That way we can know maybe a bit better why I'm doing things a little bit differently than maybe I would live. Keep poking around, trying to find a good source of iron. A really good source, not these mediocre nonsense for scientifics. Okay, nothing. What about up here? Yeah, a little bit of carbon. Come on, show me real iron. We don't have access to ice condensers, so this huge patch of dry ice really doesn't mean very much for us at all. And so we're not going to worry about it. There we go, there's some iron. We'll check these couple of plots and then we'll go ahead and get founded. That works for me. Okay, why don't we just do something real dumb.
Preliminary scans agree this is a great primary location
and
for
there.
our new investment.
And
you
there.
can count on us.
And I've got one more claim I can take. I think I'm going to go ahead and send that out the water, actually, just to be super careful and make sure I get decent water. Okay. One thing you will notice also is... No, let's go ahead and actually sell... No, I don't want to sell steel. This housing, much cheaper. Much, much cheaper. Only cost 1,000 to take this. Instead of, I believe it was 3,000 or 4,000 previously that it would cost. Much, much, much more. So we can try and even push for that fairly soon with our iron if we want to. We're going to hold on to the steel and glass because we're not making any of that, but it could be very useful to just grab up this housing immediately. That way we've got it, and now the colony will keep expanding, which is fantastic, as that will increase our income later. So that just seems like a good plan to me. Now we just have to wait on the aluminum and the iron to roll on in, and we can try and expand. You'll see even a computer has immediately purchased up another housing unit, I believe. So that's 2 housing units already having been purchased because they are just so cheap at the start of the game. All right. I think we'll wait for this aluminum to come on in, then we'll expand and then get down our steel mills that we're going to want. You will notice this metal mine not producing the 3 that would be expected from a normal metal mine in multiplayer. We're going to get down 4 steel mills just so we can guarantee our expansion fairly easily. Pirates, fantastic. Wow, the computer did not go near as high as it used to on the pirates, so that's interesting. And we'll just have to look for a good way to use them. I suppose we could steal some carbon. Carbon's only $9 though. We could aim for some aluminum. There is a fair amount of that to steal, especially if we place it right here, so that might be a decent option. Just in the short term. They were very cheap pirates, we can use them fairly aggressively. You'll also notice that our steel mills, even with all their adjacency bonuses, not quite producing even the amount of steel we would hope for, only 0.75 from these edge ones and 0.93. That's why we're getting quite aggressive and going ahead and throwing down 4 steel mills. Already, EMP down on us. The computer stays fairly aggressive with black market, as much as it can manage, it seems. And you can see both of them likely have made, or one of them has made a black market purchase, maybe both of them purchased a new claim. And the scavenger likely started with an EMP. Yeah, he started with an EMP and an underground nuke, so we'll just have to watch out for those things. Oh, never actually got down the water pump. We should go ahead and do that. That's something I'm quite bad at, actually putting down my water pump. Now we do have some options here. I think I'm going to go ahead and grab this new claim, and then maybe we'll focus on expanding the colony before too long. No iron coming in is kind of painful. Hopefully, would these provide 4 iron a second? Not quite, but very, very close to it. Hopefully we'll recover before long and that will stop being an issue. I think we'll even just, at this point, we have some options. Obviously none of our stuff is actually working right now, so power's not too bad. But I think we do need to concern ourselves with this silicon, with our extra claim. So that's what we're going to go ahead and grab up, is the nice silicon. Power is starting to become an issue, so next HQ level we'll probably make sure to grab some power, just to make sure we're not having too much of a problem. And obviously iron got very, very expensive because ours got EMP'd, causing an issue. Computer does not understand that it is better generally to nuke medium tiles than high, although I don't know if that holds true once you've counted in the engineers in this particular mode, but still. Interesting to nuke a tile that's still frozen out for a long time. And this is kind of standard when you're against a scavenger in campaign still. They kind of just like throwing everything they can at you. I'm not sure why the computer starts with so many bonuses. Like, for example, this robot who has 40 extra steel and 60 aluminum when upgrading HQ. How long is it going to take him to actually upgrade his HQ? Considering that. That's insane. Now, we might want to push for a leisure building. Chems are still fairly cheap, shouldn't be too much of an issue. Oh yeah, we can go a little higher for pirates, that's fine. And hopefully this water coming in will let us push to that, and then that will increase the consumption of water, and we can just make sure to secure plenty of water and hope that we're going to be okay. Because the other options are to increase consumption of chems and glass, or electronics and power. And so we maybe want to push the water side of things, because that's where our production is geared. Alright, let's go ahead and steal... do we want to steal anything? We could steal this water and aluminum still. This water's pretty good.
Pirates.
Why not just stick to it?
I hate those filthy bandits.
Alright, the steel mills still can't come back online. Let's grab this leisure building. That gets us 3. Kind of an interesting question whether or not we want to upgrade or whether we want to increase consumption this way. But this increases the price of water, which is hopefully going to be nice for us because we're kind of relying on that to go ahead and push our upgrades on through. Looks like steel can come back online fairly safely. Most of that cost is going to be power. And we'll just be pushing for an expansion as fast as we can pull it off. No need for more housing. Colony is still growing, which is nice. Want to make sure that colony grows. That's our biggest concern, making sure the colony keeps growing. Nothing really more important than that. Steel, obviously flooding, because even though this guy, I mean, he's not using too much steel, and on top of that, he's getting those steel shipments, so even though he's not producing very much, it's still just, the price has almost no pressure on it whatsoever. Alright, we can expand. Go ahead and look at getting down some power.
The shareholders will love it.
Maybe, where do we want to put power? We could even put it in the way of somebody else's water production, for example, because that guy has a lot of water coming in, and we don't need him to be able to expand that easily. So So I'm very tempted just to throw down power somewhere ridiculous, right, like right here. But it might be a bit better just to throw it down close to the base and plan on leaving it power for a while and then transitioning it into just some kind of basic production. So maybe we'll just head that route instead. Plenty of power down. There is a surplus on silicon, which is unfortunate. We could even cancel these, sell the silicon, and then buy the silicon back up by planting them again, but that just seems like a lot of work for the campaign, so maybe we'll see if we can get away with not doing that. Alright. And I think we're going to get down a water pump, maybe just 2 water pumps, and try and immediately push for another expansion, instead of trying to make any significant amount of money. These steel mills need to get turned off at this point. We need to buy up some glass with whatever we have. And sell iron down. Pirates about 6,000. Not going to worry about it too much. We do need to be concerned about this scavenger who's gotten into electrolysis already, because that's pretty much where we need to go as well. We got the electrolysis engineer, so our electrolysis production is at 100%, just like our water production is, with those 3 engineers each. And we'll just have to see if we can make good use of that by getting to the expansion quickly. Unfortunately, we need a whole 60 glass to pull that off. And that's a little problematic. So much so. But I feel like we're going to just get rid of this steel and actually just move straight into glass for the moment. We don't make glass very well, but we only really need enough to go ahead and guarantee our expansions. And then hopefully we'll be okay. As you can see, these are still terrible. Like, with a full 100% adjacency bonuses on this thing, it is up to a normal glass furnace, but at least we can make glass. So we're going to try it. Silicon is so darn cheap that we still make a little bit of money in this, so hopefully it's not too bad. Okay. And then steel is obviously also exceptionally cheap, so hopefully the upgrade will not be difficult to push toward at this point. Sell off more iron, just to make sure we've got the cash on hand to keep making the glass. Sell off more water, because nobody's really competing with us in that front. Like, this guy's just consuming it, but he's also producing massive amounts of it, so... He apparently has plenty of water pump engineers. Yeah, he has 3, so that's kind of an issue for us. And we really, really, really need to push into that electrolysis soon. We got a shipment of oxygen, apparently, so that'll help us push forward as well. And hopefully we can upgrade before too long. Unfortunately, steel's kind of going up enough to start causing problems, but we can just sell off a lot of glass. Push here.
Thanks to the infrastructure boost you approved.
Is that another nuke? Wasn't on me though, so it's okay.
In no time.
4 reactors down. We already have 3 water pumps, so that'll help sustain us there. Food would be a nice idea, but we don't produce food nearly as well as we do the reactor resources. So I didn't want to move into it immediately. What we'll likely do is just get a nice stockpile of glass. 160 glass is what we'll aim for, and then we'll transition all of this into food. And maybe all of this into steel, especially with nighttime on the way. What's getting stolen from me? Silicon? Yeah, silicon. That's alright. Not too big a deal. So how are these doing? Yeah, look at all the money they're making. Ridiculous. Reactors are so good. Reactors are always so good. Now we need jobs. We have plenty of housing units in. So I think we're just going to push for more leisure buildings to kind of go along with our inherent water production. This also keeps it from consuming too many electronics, which would be nice for the robot, and too many chemicals, which none of us can make. So none of us are really going to be pushing toward laboratories at all for pretty much any reason. Sell off some aluminum because that got nice and expensive as people keep buying up housing. How's this glass doing? Almost there. Still making a little money, but not very much. So I think now is going to be the time to go ahead and scrap out of it and move on into food. There we are. Okay. Population 4 out of 6 with 5 jobs, so we can even consider buying another leisure building, since we've got the funds for it. And we need to decide what to do with this last claim. I was thinking it might be a good idea to pop down another reactor here, but I'm not completely sure. Might be a better idea just to secure a little extra water, because I am consuming a ridiculous amount of that at this point. That's kind of the direction I was leaning, was just grabbing up this last super important water. And then getting down a goon squad here to make sure my water production couldn't be tampered with, as I'm going to keep trying to up the consumption of water. You'll also notice that the buildings in this particular mode, I believe, has significantly more consumption than the buildings in the current live version of the game, which means that upgrading the colony, hopefully, feels like it makes more of a difference. It feels like it matters more, and it will drive up the cost of those resources appropriately as the consumption continues to increase. Now, I talked about getting down steel mills and never did it, so let's get back into that, because steel is nice and expensive, and hopefully before long we can start looking at an expansion. As you can see, though, we don't really need to worry about expanding too much because we have the money to just continually upgrade this colony. We're also pumping out food until we got EMP'd to try and reduce the price of food, which will hopefully allow the colony to grow more effectively. Look at this water price, though. We have a nice... Whoa!
The black market is online.
We have a nice Mars quake going on right now, which means we're probably just going to sit here and then Control-Shift down at the end of it and just see where we happen to land. 85,000. Well, may as well put most of that back into the colony for now. Not all of it, but now the colony is going to grow for quite some time. And we don't really need to worry about upgrading it immediately. We can instead consider going ahead, getting to that HQ level 5, getting this goon squad down. We'll be able to get even more food production up at that point. We'll be able to get more steel production up, which should be quite profitable. More aluminum production, which is a good $100 a piece right now, because of all of it that's gone into housing. And that will hopefully carry us on through the rest of the game. Man, aluminum's crazy expensive. That's just nuts, the fact that aluminum went quite that high. Like this guy, he's got 1.5 aluminum a second, and this guy has no aluminum a second, so that's going to be where it's coming from, but it's still a little nuts that aluminum's gotten that ridiculous. Alright. Food's coming back, which is good. Everything's making a fair amount of money. And we have to question, do we even want to actually push for that expansion? Will it make enough money to matter? Water finally coming back down. Power moving up fairly quickly. Another option is to say, forget the expansion. Let's just focus entirely on making money with the tiles we have. Got power surge. Let's see what we can do about that. Like hit the guy here. Is pretty nice. That also reveals his goon squad here. So we'll be able to throw down a nice EMP following that up later. And why don't we just focus on increasing the colony, making the colony better? Well, do we upgrade? 58,000 for an upgrade. Can I make 58,000 extra dollars? I don't actually know. I'm going to go ahead and try. My aluminum got knocked down. We can go ahead and commit fairly hard into that. Things don't have to maintain their price for too much longer at this point to stay profitable. So what we're going to do is just expand into the resources that we reasonably can. Maybe get into a little power up here. Things that are immediately profitable, not really worrying too much about the long-term viability, because there's not much long-term to it. I hope that doesn't just kill my entire money supply. Computers usually aren't very good at shortages and surpluses, so there's a good chance I'll be alright, even with an aggressive play like that. Unfortunately, it did kind of destroy our glass production, and made all of this relatively non-viable, so it would have been much better as steel for a while. Surplus on the fuel means that the reactors are not doing so hot. As you can see, water exceptionally expensive. We need to try and keep the colony growing as best as we can. We'll just keep buying up our two usual buildings. No reason to turn away from them now. And here comes the end of day 6, 1 day left after that. We could even go into more food production just to try and knock down all these prices and keep the colony growing more, but I don't know if it's going to actually be worthwhile, is the issue. Another little EMP there. Nice little power surge. Oh, that didn't work. That's problematic. Now we might just get attacked for that. As you can see, though, even though our stock price is very low because of our massive amount of debt, we do have the ability to buy more and more colony stock, guarantee more resources for ourselves, and you can kind of also see the effect of the colony now, because water is up at $70, and we've been running a surplus most of this time. Not the whole time, but most of the time on water. So we're not even purchasing much water. We know our opponent isn't purchasing much water. He's got a good 8 water a second. So he's dumping 8 water a second into the market right now, theoretically. And water's still holding its price very high. So it feels like the colony is far more influential than it used to be It's got all these houses attached to it and all these leisure buildings that are making a serious impact on how effective it is. It also means our water pumps are making decent money. Not super huge. I've seen water occasionally go up to like a solid $300, but still solid amounts of money nonetheless. Let's turn the glass back on. That'll make some money for the time being. There's the power surge coming back to bite us, which is quite painful. Not something we wanted to see. And we could buy more colony stock, but I'm not too concerned about either of them catching up to us. So I think instead we'll just pay down the debt so we don't have to worry about it later. And it doesn't turn into a huge major issue. Let's turn the reactors back on. They're going to be making a decent profit by now. Glass is doing very nicely. More debt paying. As you can see, aluminum still holding its price very well. It's kind of the kind of thing we were hoping for. And now we have no debt, which is nice, obviously. It's kind of nice just to be in a state of, we don't have to worry about it. That's fine. And now we'll just probably put the rest of our money into buying colony stock as we can. Power shortage isn't going to hurt, so that's good. How are these reactors doing? Reactors starting to lose money again. Shouldn't be any surprise. Water's flying up in price quite quickly. I mean, look at this. This is insane how fast water's going up in price right now, as I'm not dumping too much into it after having this water pump blown up. This water pump's worth $300 a second at this point. Absolutely ridiculous. Totally love it. Love being able to have that kind of impact on the market. We can buy a little bit into the electronics short. Haven't been doing too much of that this game, but it should be relatively safe,
Let this be a lesson to you
as
all.
electronics were
Screw with
already
us
massively
when we
expensive.
screw with you.
Farm's still doing well. Everything generally still doing well. Coming up to the end of the last day. Time to get that last little bit of stock. And that's going to do it for this particular mission. 18, 6, and 8 is what we come up with. We grew the colony as much as we could possibly manage. Only up to a population of 10 out of 13, unfortunately. Very difficult to keep that water, food, and oxygen price down, mostly when you're, driving water's price through the roof and then your opponent EMPs your food. But that's just the way of it. That's the risk we took. Our stock price recovered quite nicely to make sure that even if it were an elimination round, we wouldn't get eliminated, guaranteed. And, well, we made a lot of money. It was a relatively successful mission. So, I think, let's go ahead and take a look at the resources. I mean, the big thing, we saw most of what we needed to see in the game, right? Like, water was holding its price really well. A lot better than maybe it should have when you consider that this guy, he's consuming 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not saying it should have, but then you would normally expect in a multiplayer game, right? This guy's consuming 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 water a second and producing 8 for the most part. When he got frozen out, it was worse for him. But still, consuming 7 a second, producing 8, he's running a surplus of 1. We were generally, because of the buildings we had turned off or on at any given point, we were running a surplus of 2 to 3 the entire time, and yet we saw water getting up to that $80 price point or so at times. So my gut feeling about these changes to campaign is I like them. I feel like I can feel the colony consumption a lot more. But I think it's going to take a lot more games. But it's something we're definitely going to try and keep an eye on in this campaign and any other campaigns we do as, robotic or as scavenger, so on and so forth from there. We'll just have to see what happens. But for now, that's going to wrap it up for this episode. So thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you next time.